YouTube पे लाइव आ रही है। I am the host. Okay.
Bismillah.
You शुरू करें मोहन साहब? With your permission. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullah. I will request Aminullah to recite from the Holy Quran, Surah Al, which is also known as the Surah Al-Hussein. A loud salawat for the well-being of Aminullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Ajil faraja.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسر هل في ذلك قسم لذي حجر ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد إرم ذات العماد التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد مثلها في البلاد وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال جما كلا وإذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياة يومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد يا أي يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم.
कहाँ से देखा? अस्सलामुअलैकुम जी हेलो जी शुजात बुखारी साहब अगर हैं तो जी ब्रदर शुजात बुखारी साहब ठीक है मैं शुरू करता हूँ
बिस्मिल्लाह
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله من أول الدنيا إلى فنائها ومن الآخرة إلى بقائها الحمد لله على كل نعمة وأستغفر الله وأتوب إليه من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه وهو أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توغاه وتمتعه فيها طويلا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. It is the start of a new year 1442 after Hijrah, which makes it 1381 years since the tragedy of Karbala, since the shahadat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And that what we see miraculous in this movement of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is that this azah, this mourning or weeping for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, it is fresher every year, and it is what the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam has said, إن لقتل الحسين حرارة في قلوب المؤمنين لا تبرد أبدا. That is, for the massacre, murder and killing of Hussein, there is a heat in the heart of the mu'mineen that never cools down. Crying and mourning for Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam has such great reward, such great ajr. And the name of Hussein, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, is such that this entire creation, the hadith says that on the day of judgment, from 1,000 sufuf of mu'mineen who will enter the heaven, 999 will enter by the mediation and through the shafaat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, he is great. Tears shed for Sayyid al-Shuhada, they all carry weight and they are bought at a lavish price by Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. One of the greatest of Maraji Taqneed who passed away in the late 90s, 1998, is Ayatullah al-Uzma Marashi Najafi. He has his wasiyyah and says that the day he dies and prior to his burial, and once you have prepared his body, shrouded it, given ghusl to it, his wasiyyat was that bring him by the mimbar on which he used to sit and recite for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and cry for Sayyid al-Shuhada and make people cry for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Now he has this wasiyyah to his son. Then he calls another alim in Qum and says that I have said this to my son Mahmud, but he may forget. So that he doesn't forget, you remember that once they have prepared my body, bring the coffin by the mimbar on which I used to recite and open my amama, my turban, one side of it, tie it to my coffin, and the other end of it, tie it to the mimbar of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So that night, which is going to be a night of pain and horror and loneliness of mine, I am supported by these tears and by those cries that were for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. So everything that is for Abu Abdullah is great, and everything that is connected to Sayyid al-Shuhada is bought at a lavish price by Allah Jalla wa Ala. Hadith from the Holy Prophet says that لو اجتمع الناس على حب علي بن أبي طالب لما خلق الله النار. If mankind, they had gathered and they had united upon the love of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, Allah would not have had created fire. So that again is a shocking report that Jahannam is because people, they did not come towards the muhabbat and towards the following of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam. So we have to give importance to these nights, and it is those 10 nights as it was just recited, wal fajr, wal layalin ashir, wal fajr, by the daybreak, by the dawn, wal layalin ashir, that is Allah swears by these 10 nights. So these 10 nights, they are great. The 10 nights of Layla, of the month of Dhul Hijjah, which started from the night of the first day of Eid. And again, these 10 nights, they are great. And these 10 nights, they are no less than Laylatul Qadr. And in particular, the day of Ashura, that people, when they get together, they cry for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And you see that towards the end of the past Zohar and towards the end of the day of Ashura, although we haven't done much, and especially this year, it's going to be all indoors. We see that people, you feel light on that day of Ashura, as if a big burden has been removed from us and we feel light. There says that the reason for that sensation and that feeling is that the burden of wrong that we were carrying is removed, and that is by the mediation of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. So the best disinfectant we have that can remove all the germs and all the wrong that is in us are these tears that are shed for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Hadith from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, نفس المهموم لظلمنا تسبيح وهمه لنا عبادة. The breath of one who is aggrieved in our oppression is tasbih, and his striving is worship. That is regarding the azar that is held for Sayyid al-Shuhada, Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam. Now for Abu Abdullah, the skies and everything, the skies, the earth, everything within it, it wept. They cried. Now here Amirul Mu'mineen is hit. Jibreel raises his cry, says, Tahaddamat wallah arkanul huda. But when Abu Abdullah al-Hussein dies, it is the entire creation of Allah that wept. The skies on levels of it, they wept. Hadith says that this one hadith, that nafasul mahmoom, if this is written in gold, it's worth, it's that great. Now in our teachings, we find that in du'as, in majalis, people, they cry and they shed a few tears, though very little. Hadith says that if that tear that was shed for Abu Abdullah was as tiny as the wing of a fly, says wajabat lahul jannah. Says man baka abka aw tabaka. Someone who cried or abka made others cry. Wajabat lahul, or even resembles like someone who cries. Wajabat lahul jannah. Jannah is mandatory upon him. So hadith says that every eye will cry on the day of judgment, except for three eyes. An eye that has cried due to the fear of Allah, an eye that has kept away from the haram of Allah, and an eye that has kept awake in the worship in the way of Allah. Allah says these three eyes, they will be safe. Hadith says, Kullu aynin baqiyatun yawm al-qiyamah. Hussein says every eye will cry on the day of judgment. Exception is the eye that cried for Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam. So crying for Abu Abdullah is one of those duties which is mandatory, wajib upon every one of us. That is, we have to cry upon Abu Abdullah, we have to teach our children to cry upon Abu Abdullah, and we have to make them cry for Sayyid al-Shuhada. Now when you look into the Ziyarat Nahiyat al-Muqaddasa, the Imam says that لَأَنْدُبَنَّكَ, that I cry twice a day. And when I cry, it's the tears of blood that are shed upon Abu Abdullah and Hussein and the griefs that he went through. So Azaa of Abu Abdullah has to be observed, and it is one of those wajib, mandatory commands, and that is paying the price of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam for the worship that for all the services that he had provided. Now, one of the ulama, you must have heard his name, is Marhum Sayyid Ali Akbar Kawthari. Now, those of you who've seen the sermons and the speeches that were delivered by Imam Khomeini, and especially in the Muharram and Safar, and whenever a majlis was held, you can find his clips on YouTube. Ali Akbar Kawthari, a very renowned orator who recited for him throughout his life, and also his father was the reciter for Imam Khomeini. Now he, on the day of Ashura, as the trend is in India, in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Iran, in Iraq, that majalis, they start from Fajr and they continue all the day. And here this, because he was a renowned speaker and a narrator, people, they always invited him. He says that I was fully booked, packed, every hour of mine for reciting a majlis. And then I came out of a majlis with a little break of a few minutes. I need to get into another one. I came out and a group of children, some girls there in the streets, they caught hold of me. They said, Awai Kawthari, hello, we want you to recite for us. He says, I'm busy, I have to get to another majlis. Allow me to leave. They plead. They held his abba and they say, please, we have arranged a little majlis, all these children here, and we want you to recite. He says, I'm too busy today. They held and they started crying. And these girls, they said that, do you think that only the elders, they have a heart to cry for Abu Abdullah? We children also have a heart. We also love to cry for Abu Abdullah and Hussein. We also love to hold a majlis for him. come and sit and recite a little bit. He says that I took time off my other majlis and then came here to the majlis of these children, and I sat there and I recited for them a few sentences I recited. Now when I was leaving, they said, have a cup of tea. You can't leave a majlis without having a cup of tea. That is the tabarruk that you have to have. He says that I took, and they had these teacups, the toy teacups, in which they had arranged all the tabarruk and the refreshments. They gave me a tea. Now he says that all these little kids, I don't know whether their hands are clean or not, maybe or not. He says that I took it respectfully from that girl, but I did not drink, and somehow I threw it away so that they don't find out that I did not drink that tea. Says that night I saw Hazrat Fatima salamullahi alayha in my dream. She was upset. She says, Kausari, why did you do that? Why did you not have that tea? He, with all those excuses that he had, he says that majlis was the only majlis that was accepted from you, that you recited on that day. And that tea that you just spilled it away, that was prepared by me. We believe that a majlis that is held for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, the host of that majlis is Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam. Everything is prepared by her. Who recites what he recites, who prepares the tabarruk, and all the refreshments, the manifest, who attends, who participates, may that be the salam or the marsiya or the noha or the ziyarat. All these are the different components that a majlis has, and that manifest is prepared and written by Hazrat Zahra salamullahi alayha. Hadith says, the ayah of Quran says that وَقُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَّرَ اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ. Do whatever you want. Allah is watching your actions. وَرَسُولُهُ, He is watching. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ, they are watching your actions. So everything that we are doing in the presence of Allah, it is like a live connection between us and Him, us and Rasulullah, and us and some of the mu'mineen. So a majlis that is held for Sayyid al-Shuhada, although in this pandemic everything has shut down, everything is closed, but in reality, that many mu'mineen that were used to participate in majalis, for example, 500 million people on this planet Earth, they used to go to, example, 1 million centers, but now it's not 1 million centers, it's 500 million centers. That is, every mu'min himself is mourning and shedding tears for Sayyid al-Shuhada. In fact, every heart of a mu'min has become a Husseiniya this year. It's beautiful, it's different, it's a new experience that we see. And that what we observe from a night like tonight is, first of all, Ziyarat Ashura be recited every day, all of it with the 100 lan and the salam. And the best way to do it, that if you cannot recite all those 100 lan and salam, one of the options that has been given to us is that you, when you say Allahumma la'an awwala zalimin zalama haqqa Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad wa akhira tabi'an lahu ala dhalik, Allahumma la'an al-isabata allati jahadat al-Husayn wa shaya'at wa bay'at wa taba'at ala qatlih, Allahumma la'anhum jami'a. Just repeat that bit. Allahumma la'anhum jami'a. Allahumma la'anhum jami'a. Likewise at the salam. From the salam bit of Ziyarat Ashura, you just repeat Assalamu ala al-Husayn wa ala Ali ibn al-Husayn wa ala awlad al-Husayn wa ala ashab al-Husayn. Just that bit you repeat, and then 100 times, and after that complete the ziyarat and then recite Dua al-Qamar. And this ziyarat, it's highly rewarding. Marhum Allama Qazi Tabatabai, the Ustad of Irfan of Ayatollah Bahjat, when he was seen after his death, they said that, do you want to return to dunya? He says, yes. Says, what do you want to do? Says, as long as I lived, I just recited Ziyarat Ashura once. And all the benefit that I see in Akhirah for the Ziyarat Ashura is beyond one's perception and cannot be explained. I want to return to dunya to recite Ziyarat Ashura a lot more times. That is that barakah of the Ziyarat Ashura. Ziyarat Ashura is in reality Hadith al-Qudsi, that is the word of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Now, for this Ziyarat Ashura, one of the things that we have to observe in these 10 nights or until the Arba'in of Aba Abdullah, Hadith says that when Imam as-Sadiq was in the streets of Medina, Imam says to the reporter that, do you pay a visit to my grandfather Hussein? He says, no, I live in Medina, that's too far away, I can't, I'm here in Medina. Imam says, you don't need to travel, just look to your right, you look to your left, and then you say, Assalamu alayk, Ya Aba Abdullah. For this one phrase, for this one sentence, you get the reward of a complete Hajj and a complete Umrah. So that is regarding the sawab of ziyarat and the ziyarat Ashura and crying for Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam. Hadith says, Innal buka al Hussein yahuttu zunub al azam. Now we have sins that cannot be forgiven. We have sins that we don't know how they can be forgiven. Says you cry for Abu Abdullah and Hussein, all those stubborn sins that were difficult to be removed, that can be eased, that can be taken away and removed from your system. That is Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam and the benefits of the ziyarat of Abu Abdullah and crying for Sayyid al-Shuhada. The topic that we have is how to have a Mubarak life, barakat in life. One of the ways is by bonding with Abu Abdullah and Hussein. Now, many a times you see that people, they have a very Mubarak life. There might be people who have a lot of wealth. There might be people who have dwellings, huge, big, but then there is no benefit in it. There is no productivity in it. But sometimes you see people with little wealth and then a lot of barakat. Or sometimes people with just a few kids and then so much productivity and a little house and so much of barakat is there. So barakat is something that is given by Allah Ta'ala. And how do we attain that barakah? For example, here we have Hazrat Zahra Salamullahi alayha, who is the only child of Rasulullah and a daughter. And it is a time when people, they used to believe and say that Banuna, Banu Abna'ina, that is our sons, that is our lineage, it continues through our sons. Daughters are strangers. Through daughters, one's lineage does not continue. And the person who used to mock Rasulullah, he had 11 sons. And then as a result of his mockery, one after the other, all of them perished, all of them died. And here Allah gave one daughter to Rasulullah. And so much of barakah in her, inna a'tainaka al-kawthar, that we gave you abundance, goodness in abundance, a lot. And that is given to Rasulullah. You see that at the age of 18, she lived only 18 years on the surface of this earth. And in those 18 years, how much of a benefit was provided by her in her family, in that community, in Mecca, in Medina, in that Sha'b Abi Talib. Wherever you see, it's only beauty and barakat that was seen by her. And even after her demise, the same productivity, the same barakah is there for Hazrat Fatima Salamullahi alayha. Now, this barakat has to be sought. There are some ways of getting this barakah. Now, because it's the night of the first of the sacred month of Ramadan, we have to start this azah, this duty, this wajib, and we will seek help from Hazrat Fatima Salamullahi alayha, who is the mother of Ashura. If we cry for Sayyid al-Shuhada so much and we observe the day of Ashura as such, now here Fatima is the mother of Ashura. So a lot more emphasis and importance has to be given to this Ashura, and for that we will seek help and start the observances by the name and by the azah and crying for Hazrat Fatima alayha salam. Now, Hazrat Zahra Salamullahi alayha, she has a hadith. She says that regarding the importance of prayers, She says that يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الْبَرَكَةَ مِنْ عُمْرِهِ, that someone who doesn't offer his prayers on time, not that he is not offering his prayers, he is offering his prayers, but then not on time, or that tawajjuh, that importance has to be given to it, is not being given. She says Allah punishes him with 15 punishments. Says, 3 of these punishments are in this dunya, and then 3 at the time of death, and 3 when he's laid in his grave, and then again when he will be resurrected on the day of judgment. So six punishments for each one of these stations. Says, يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الْبَرَكَةَ مِنْ عُمْرِهِ, Allah will seize away barakat from his life, from his umr. That is, the person may be living for such a long age, but no barakat whatsoever, has lived for 100 years, no productivity, no one has benefited from him. Says Allah will take away the barakat from his life if someone doesn't give importance to his prayers. وَيَرْفَعُ اللَّهُ الْبَرَكَةَ مِنْ رِزْقِهِ, from his rizq also Allah will take away barakat. He's earning a lot, he's making a lot of money, but then there is no barakat in that money. On the contrary, we do have that people, they don't make so much money, but there is so much of barakat in their time, in their money, in their house, in their family, in everything. So that is something that is bestowed upon people. Now, barakat, we don't have an interpretation or a translation for that in English. You don't know how to translate this term barakah, to have a blessed life. Now, in one of these battles, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, with 1,000 soldiers, he was there with Amir al-Mu'mineen. And Abu Zar, he comes and says, Ya Rasulullah, you are this part of the world. I want you to have your dinner with me tonight. I invite you. And says to his wife that I'm inviting Amir al-Mu'mineen and Rasulullah, so make something for them for dinner. Rasulullah, he says, I accept your invite, but I've come here for a battle with 1,000 soldiers. So I cannot leave them behind and I come and have a feast and they sit here. So I will come and I will bring all of them to your house, 1,000 of them. He comes and says this to his wife, that the Prophet, he accepted to come with Amir al-Mu'mineen and the 1,000 soldiers that are there with him. She was a mu'minah. She says, if the Prophet has said that, then there's nothing to worry. He knows what to do and what he has said. Now, this dwelling of Abu Dhar, it's a small dwelling, a small house, and with a very minimum arrangements in it. It says a very small dwelling with a little food that was prepared for Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'mineen. They come, then here says Rasulullah that the soldiers, they have their meal first. What happened to that place, that little place, it expanded so much and all of them were accommodated in that dwelling of Abu Dhar. All of them ate that little food that was prepared by Abu Dhar's wife, and all of them left. And then now the Prophet and Amir al-Mu'mineen, they sat, they had their meal, and everything was as it was, whatever she had prepared was still there. So that is barakah, that is given to someone's food, to someone's life, to someone's time. Or even if you see today, Ayatollah Misbah, our Ustad, may Allah protect him, he was saying this a few days, 1 or 2 months ago in one of his talks, saying that I have reached at this age 86 years, 87 years, and the amount of work he does, and then says compared to the amount of work the leadership of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Khamenei, he does, says it's beyond one's comparison. No one can think of how much of a burden is on him. Looking after the local affairs, the international affairs, then his education, his lectures that he has twice every week, and that is Dars Kharij, which is that highest level of research, and then delivering of those talks and lectures and studies, and then on and off these lectures to be given, all these international meetings, his reading, and also in reading, he is the second fastest reader, book reader in Iran. There's no one with that much of a productivity and that age, and also he is ill. And how come he can manage, and there is no one on the surface of this earth who can do that? That is that barakat given to someone's time, to someone's life, to someone's age, that Allah Ta'ala, He picks certain things in an individual, and for those little things, so much is given. And that is why we see in Quran and the riwayat that never underestimate any one of these a'mal and actions that have been mentioned, the mustahabbat that we have, saying that that's little, that's tiny. It says we don't know. Maybe that mustahab that you want to put away, in that it is the pleasure and the rida of Allah Ta'ala that is hidden. And for that, because Allah has picked it and has liked that in you, He will give you whatever you want. That is why it is said, فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. When it comes to good, you always have that competition with others. Try to do it first. So here she says that Allah, for someone who takes prayers easy, يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الْبَرَكَةَ مِنْ عُمْرِهِ. Allah will take away barakah from his life. وَيَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الْبَرَكَةَ مِنْ رِزْقِهِ, and from his rizq. Now, that is regarding the barakah. One of the other things that we do see in the ayat and riwayat is many a times people, they think that by spending things lessen in the equations and calculations of Allah Ta'ala, it is the other way around. People, they used to come to Prophet and say that, Ya Rasulullah, I'm suffering, I'm hand to mouth, I'm struggling with my life, I haven't got anything. What do I do? Rasulullah says, give sadaqah. He says, I haven't got anything. How can I give? He says, give. Or for example, when the youth, they used to come to the Prophet with their problems and how they are suffering and struggling, he used to give them a prescription, which in today's calculations and equations, it never falls in anywhere. Say, go and get married. Says, I don't have anything and you want me to get married? He says, yes, go get married. So that is how Islam opens up. Here says that people, when they don't pay their zakat, people, when they don't pay their khums, says, منعت الأرض بركاتها. By not paying zakat, you would see that the land, the earth, it would stop giving away its barakah. So by paying zakat, and zakat is also a very small portion from whatever that income is, 2.5%, 5%, 10%, depending on how the land is irrigated. The zakat also, or for example, if you have cattle and sheep, and then if you have worked hard in providing the food for the cattle, there the zakat is low. No, but if you've just left those animals to graze on their own and they have benefited from the lands of God, says that over there the zakat will be a little higher. So that is how zakat is paid. Here it says that if someone does not give zakat, stops paying zakat, and Holmes says that the earth also will stop giving out its barakat to you. من الزرع والثمار والمعادن. Now what are those barakat of the earth? Says it's fruit and then it's vegetables and whatever grows from the earth, and ma'adin. Ma'adin are these minerals like the petroleum, the gold, the silver, whatever you have hidden in the earth, that is the treasures of Allah. Says if you want those treasures from what has been given to you, give away as zakat, as khums, as sadaqah. Allah also will give you from his treasures. Now, in giving, Allah gives a lot. Someone who is giving, Allah gives him. Someone who is tight-fisted, Allah doesn't give him. So being generous is good. One of the qualities of mu'mineen is that they are giving. One of the other means which stops barakat from getting to you is tarku amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. If you have got the ability that you can guide someone and teach someone what wajib is, what haram is, bring him closer to Allah, reduce the distance between him and his God, do it. If you can do it. If someone doesn't do it, then he says that barakat also will be taken away from him. One of the other means of what seizes away barakat in our life, it says, إِذَا ظَهَرَتِ الْخِيَانَاتِ ارْتَفَعَتِ الْبَرَكَاتِ. Cheating, treachery, or cheating one another. If that increases in the society, barakat also they will be taken away. Elsewhere says that jury, interest, profit on money, that is haram, not allowed. That you give something to someone and then say, I give you $1,000, but I will take back $1,200. That is haram. Says that will take away the barakat from you, from your money. So barakat, لو أن Quran says, لو أن أهل القرى آمنوا واتقوا لفتحنا عليهم بركات من السماء. Says if the inhabitants of that land, that village, that place, آمنوا, they were faithful, واتقوا, they were God-bearing, لفتحنا عليهم بركات من السماء. We will open up for them barakat, special favors from the sky and the earth. And then when you see that it happens, says يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدْرَارًا. You will see that the sky, it will pour on you, pour all the barakat, only because of obedience. In our deen, obedience comes first. May that be obedience to Allah, obedience to Rasulullah, obedience to the Imam. If someone submits to the Imam, to the Prophet, to Allah, you would see that provisions are there, barakat are there. يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدْرَارًا. And Allah will send abundant rains on you from the skies. So that's what we see from Hazrat Zahra, salamullahi alayha. She picks up this point and says that on-time prayers, giving importance to prayers, it will give you barakat in abundance, a lot of barakat. One of the other ways how this barakat can be enhanced and can be increased is بِالْعَدْلِ تَتَضَاعَفُ الْبَرَكَاتِ, by being just, observing justice. Now the reason why Abu Abdullah al-Hussein stood is for justice. The reason why Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam was killed was because of his excessive justice. So they could not tolerate the justice of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that is, he being the first person of this vast Islamic land with all those riches embedded in the grounds and the earth, and all those blessings and favors being poured from left and right from all the creation of Allah, and he being the top and the first person, and not giving away anything to those who are power hungry and who want to oppress and to rule. He says that if I was to seize away the skin of a grain from the mouth of an ant, I would not do that. That is Ali ibn Abi Talib. So that justice of Amir al-Mu'mineen was tough on those arrogant powers of his time, that if he is to rule, he will never let us rule on the land, and he would never let us make money. Muawiyah also said that, and all of these rulers, they say that we know that there is no one better than Ali. But if we work with him, we won't get to our world. For us, our aim and our is to get to this world and to make this world. Being with Ali will not let us make this world. So that was the reason why Amir al-Mu'mineen was killed, and says that Ali was killed for his shiddat adlih, for his severe and his staunch and this justice that was seen. Bil-adl tatadha'af al-barakat. Says with justice, you will see that barakat, they increase in your life in multifolds. Now, if you have many children, more than one, this justice has to be observed in all of them. Not that you give a lot to one of them and nothing to the other, or a little more to one and less to the other. In the presence of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali alayhi salatu wassalam, there was a lady. She had 2 children with her, and she had 3 pieces of dates. And then the children were hungry. What she did is that Imam was watching her. It's 3 kids and 2 kids and 3 dates. She gave 1 date to this one and 1 to the other one, and then sliced the other into half, the third one, and gave half and half to each of them. Imam says that is adl what you did. That is good what you did. So that is adl. With that observance of adl, barakat in one's life, they increase. Now again, when we see these riwayat that talk about barakat, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says that لا تدخل الملائكة بيتا فيه خمر أو دف أو طنبور, says that a house where there is liquor, a house where you find all these musical instruments that are not allowed, says that house is not Mubarak, is not a blessed house. وَلَا يُسْتَجَابُ دُعَاؤُهُمْ وَتُرْفَعُ الْبَرَكَةُ عَنْهُمْ, says du'as in that house, they will not be accepted. And barakat also will be seized away from that house. Says, a house baytun la sibyana fihi la barakata fihi. Says a house where there are no children, there is no barakat in it. Now what we see, the trend of having one kid and two kids, that is also a wrong trend. And we think that we cannot make and we cannot support them, we cannot afford for them. We are not the ones who do anything for them. A child, he comes in this world, he brings all his rizq, the package of rizq with him. Now, before he stepped into this dunya, did we avail all the food and drink in the mother's breast for the baby? We did not, nor did the child ask. Before he stepped in, Allah availed. So he makes the arrangements, saying that the population is growing too and it has to reduce if we want to provide. That is all wrong. This earth has been created. He is the creator. He is the provider. He provides. He never lets anyone stranded. Then again, one of the most important, now many of these things, we may not be having any of it in our lives, any of these harams in our dwellings, in our livings. But certain things that attract barakat, we have put them away intentionally. We participate in the Majlis of Abu Abdullah, which is very good. We observe every matam, which is very good. We cry, that is good. And there are things that we do not do. One of them is, especially in this pandemic, we can work on it and bring that back on board. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he complains. Quran also complains, says that Ya Rab inna qawm ittakhadhu hadha al-Quran mahjura, that my people, my nation, they abandoned this Quran. So al-bayt alladhi la yuqra فيه القرآن ولا يذكر الله فيه تقل بركته وتهجره, says a house wherein Quran is not recited, Allah is not remembered in it, تقل بركته, the barakat of that house also reduces. Recite Quran. Quran is very important. Quran is beautiful. Ayat of Quran are the words of Allah Ta'ala, like these riwayat that we recite, and they are the statements of Rasulullah and Aimma and the Imams alayhim salam. Just like that, Rasulullah, he is leaving behind two things. One are the Ahlul Bayt and one is the Quran. Now we have taken the Ahlul Bayt, but that, and also if you see however much dhulm was afflicted upon Quran, means that that much of a zulm and oppression was on the Ahlul Bayt as well. So if we neglect Quran in our lives, means that we are neglecting the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam as well. Although we are part of their observances, but in reality, by neglecting Quran, we are neglecting him. Imam al-Asr alayhi salam, he gives so much of importance to Quran. He recites Quran, he explains the Quran, tafsir of the Quran is upon the Imam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is the recipient of wahi, he receives the Quran. Now that he departs from this dunya, after his demise, there are certain tasks that were upon the Prophet that need to be continued after him. And that continuation is via the Imams who are the successors and who have been appointed by Allah wa ta'ala. And that is that little difference that we have with the Sunnis. That is, with the Ahlul Sunnah, they believe that the Imamat's concept is not in the Usul al-Din, We believe that imamat is in the usul. They say, like every other act of worship, leadership is also one of those acts of worship. So we can play around with it. But we believe we can't. Allah, He is one, He is just, and He has sent the prophets. He has appointed the prophet. He is the one who will appoint as well. So imamat is upon Allah Ta'ala. And now when Quran was revealed to Rasulullah, the continuation or the propagation or the delivery of this message of Quran, which was upon Rasulullah, after Rasulullah, it is upon Amir al-Mu'mineen. After Amir al-Mu'mineen, it is upon Imam Mujtaba alayhi salam. And today it is upon Imam al-Asr alayhi salam. So Imam al-Asr, he delivers the message of Quran. He interprets the verses of Quran. He himself practices Quran. He himself recites the Holy Quran. So I, who claims to be a follower and a believer of the Imam alayhi salam, I also have to give importance to Quran. And if I don't, means that that much of a don't that I have in giving importance to Quran, I have stood against the Imam alayhi salam. So it's quite serious that here we say that al-bayt alladhi la yuqra'u fihi al-Quran. Now from this first day of the sacred month of Ramadan, every one of us, those of us who are offering, who are observing the rites of Quran, reciting it, learning it, good. Increase the quality from this first day of the sacred month of Ramadan, this month of Muharram, and it is a lesson to myself. First, those of us who are not on board with the Holy Quran, make an intention, no matter what age you are. There is no age in learning. Age is just a number. So no matter what part of your life you are in, have this intention and get help from Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam. He will help you. That if there is a shortfall in our attachment and bonding with the Holy Quran, Allah, by Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, help us get on board and get connected to this divine book. Now, Quran not reciting, that also takes away the barakah in one's life. One of the other things that removes barakah from one's life is swearing. Swearing an oath. Now, this is swearing a right oath, a correct oath that is that removes the barakah. If it is something which is negative, or swearing an oath which is false, that is haram, plus there is a penalty on it, and that will definitely take away barakah. Now, swearing an oath which is true, that takes away barakah. Or someone, he has something and he wants to sell it, he's just praising and saying, by God, this is that, and it is worth more than that. So swearing at a commodity, at something, and then selling it, that would also take away barakah from one's life. Flattering, praising, that also seizes away barakah from one's life. Says, ayyuma mu'minin khada'a li sahibi sultanin aw man yukhalituhu ala dineh. If someone praises someone more than he deserves, or is in the presence of someone who is rich, or someone of a high status and rank, and then bows down before him more than he should, respects him more than he deserves, says that also will take away barakah from your life. Or likewise says cheating. If you are a partner in business with someone, or a partner with someone, cheating, may that be in business or otherwise. So if there is any kind of an agreement and a binding and a contract between two, and then you cheat, and this also becomes the wedding contract also applies to this. If someone cheats and deceives the other, says that will also take away the barakah from one's life. Yadullah fawqa aydihim. Mushtarikin ma lam yakhun ahaduhuma. Says Allah's hand is upon the two partners in business as long as they don't cheat. If one of them cheats, then that hand of Allah will be removed and that barakah also will be lost. Inshallah, we'll continue this talk tomorrow. It is the night of the 1st of Muharram, and it's the first Majlis we have all got together, and that is mourning for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And it is the first Muharram
فبيتعلى هيدا
served
وطولة
in
عندكم
a
شوي.
different way. Now, that what we see is the afflictions that unfolded upon Amir al-Mu'mineen and Hazrat Fatima salamullahi alayha, and that is upon the after the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Hadith says that when we talk about the Masa'ib of Karbala, they are great. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says that what unfolded in Medina after Rasulullah, Adha wa Amar. Adha means painful. Amar means bitter. Says things that unfolded upon Amir al-Mu'mineen, and that what he saw from among the tragedies and all those miseries and all the pains, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein did not. Yes, in less than half a day, everything that was with Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, it perished. So many Bani Hashim were killed. So much of an affliction, so much of a Mazlumiyya, so much of says, but there were certain things that Abu Abdullah al-Hussein did not see, and which Amir al-Mu'mineen saw in Medina. Says, in the presence of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now we believe that Imam is the center point and the core of this existence. We believe biyumnihi ruziq al-wara, the sustenance of every creation is provided by the Imam. And we believe that كل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين, that Allah, He has united and He has gathered everything in the Imam. So Imam is the center point. So if it is births, if it is deaths, if it is a shahadat here, the Imam has to certify or write the shahadat certificate of that shaheed. This is the aqidah. Now when we, on the night of Qadr, we have all these du'as and observances, and we present everything before the Imam of age. He signs, he dispatches, and he is the one who approves for the forthcoming year, whatever you are destined to get. Now then it is Amir al-Mu'mineen who is the Imam of age. So did he not know that if Fatima salamullahi alayha, if she opens the door, she will be hurt, she will be hit, she will be, and Muhsin also will be killed? He knew all that. That ilm was there with the Imam. And we see a similar situation in Karbala as well. There it is Fatima alayha salam, a lady who opens the door and gets crushed between the door and the wall and is brutally beaten, and the door burnt down. In Karbala also we see a similar situation, that Sayyid al-Shuhada, when he knew that it is death that he is going to, he also takes his wife and his children, his family members with him. So that's something that he learns. One of the things that we see, the reason for that is, if it was just the media who was to portray the wrong and the evil of this lot who usurped the rights after Rasulullah, it wasn't an easy job. Likewise, if it was the media who was to reflect and to inform of what mishap and what tragedies took place on the day of Ashura, that was not an easy task. They could do whatever they want. They could distort everything. But here we see that they had no mercy to women, to children. To women and children, everyone has a special regard. Here, this Mal'oon, when it was said to him, Inna fiha Fatima, that Fatima is in the house, he says, Wa'in, let her be in the house. Says that it was at that time, there was a Jew amidst the crowd and the congregation in Medina. Says when he saw that Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam, he has been that rope has been tied into his neck, and he has been tied and he's been dragged in the streets of Medina. This Jew who was a spectator watching these incidents unfold, he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. He embraced and he becomes a Muslim there. Someone there in that crowd said that, what was the time now that you embraced? Why now? When the Prophet was there, when he was inviting, why did you not embrace then? When all these different occasions were there for you to embrace, you did not, and now you embrace? He says, yes, all those incidents that I saw then, and all those invitations that I saw then, they are totally different to what I see now. That this Ali, who is so strong, who is so mighty, who is the bravest there, when he is in such a situation, means that there is something greater that he is fighting for. And there, when we see these riwayat, that says that in the last days of Rasulullah's life, Jibreel, he descends. He says, Ya Ali, Ya Rasulullah, I want everyone in this house to evacuate, to leave. You, Ali, and Zahra to remain. I have two messages for you. Says messages that were to Rasulullah were delivered. He accepted them. And there were two messages for Amir al-Mu'mineen. The first message is that Ali, this khilafat, which is your right, after Rasulullah, it will be seized away from you. Instructions of Allah are that you be patient. Secondly, Zahra salamullahi alayha will be disrespected, will be beaten, will be crushed between the door and the wall. The moment Amir al-Mu'mineen gets that message, he passes out, he panics. That is it possible that in this land, which is the headquarters of Islam, the land of revelation, Madinatul Nabi, such things could unfold. So that was the patience that we see, that was the commitment of Amir al-Mu'mineen with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Now when Hazrat Fatima was hit and hurt and her child was killed there, and when she goes to get the rights from the masjid, it was this young lady, just 18 years of age, and when she wants to walk to the mosque, which is just a few meters from her home, Fatima, she sits down, she rests, she stands up, and then she reaches the mosque. The reporter says that when she came to the mosque, she was holding the hands of her son Hassan. But when she returned from the mosque, it was Hassan who was helping the mother who was beaten by that mal'oon, slapped by that mal'oon in the courts of Medina. Now here she has a wasiyyah that none of these mala'een who hurt me be present in my funeral. In one of these occasions, we see that Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali alayhi salam, was in flares, was in tears. They said that, Ya Ali, what is the reason for this distress of yours? He says that, Shakkara lahu zarbatan, Qunfuz, that mal'oon who hit Fatima, he was thanked, he was praised, none of his benefits were stopped or reduced. His wages, they continued, his salary was on point, and nothing. All because he was the one who disrespected Fatima. Besought with that lash, فَمَاتَتْ وَفِي عَضُدِهَا أَثَرُهُ كَأَنَّهُ الدَّمْجِ. The bruises and the swellings of her arm looked like something that has been wrapped onto her arm. She was that much bruised and in pain. Now when we see the ziyarat also says, Assalamu alayk ya waliyallah, to Amir al-Mu'mineen, when you go to Mashhad and you recite that ziyarat, may Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala remove this bala and open the path to Najd and Karbala, which was our only joy in this world, that we somehow pay a visit to Sayyid al-Shuhada in Karbala, that path be opened inshallah. There we say, Anta awwalu madhlumin, you are the first oppressed. Wa awwalu man ghusiba haqqoh, the first whose right was seized. صبرت واحتسبت حتى أتاك اليقين. You were patient until you died. فأشهد أنك لقيت الله وأنت شهيد. Now, Amir al-Mu'mineen, this existence of patience and tolerance, he says that to his children and to Asma, who is in the house, now that the mother has departed. Her wasiyah and her will is that she be washed and shrouded at night, she be buried at night, no trace of her grave remain until the day of judgment. And there, with the help of Asma, he starts washing the pure body of Fatima. Says Asma, be gentle, be quiet. Even these droplets of water that you will be pouring on Fatima to wash her, Asma, be very gentle, very quiet, so that even those droplets are not heard. Says Beriz Abe Ravan Asma Beruye Athar Zahra Veli Ahiste Ahiste. Pour water on Asma on Zahra, but very gently and very quietly, so that no one finds out that we are washing the body of Zahra. Now, all of a sudden, amidst that ghusl that was being given, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he raises his cry and starts crying loud. There they say that, Ya Ali, was it not you who said to be gentle, to be quiet, not to raise voices? What happened now? Says Zahra, she had hidden this wound from me. The pains that she was going through, she never said that to me. Now, once the body was washed and was shrouded, Amir al-Mu'mineen says to Hassanain, says Hassan, Hussein, Zainab, and Kulthum, Halummu tazawwadu min ummikum. Come and hug your mother and say farewell and goodbye to her. Now the next meeting will be on the day of judgment. Now here says that the children, they came, they wept, they cried. Wa hasrata, says that regret upon us for this pain that we are going through and upon the demise of Fatima. Now here says Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen that Ushhidullah, that I bear witness, that I, Allah is my witness, innaha qad hannat, that is she, her hands, the shroud that she was in, it broke, the band on it, it broke, her hands, they emerged, and they hugged Imam Hassan and Hussein, and then says that, Ya Abul Hassan, from the skies, this statement was heard, Irfa'huma anha falaqad abkiya wallah malaikat as-sama. Take the children away from the mother, that the angels in the skies, they're all crying and mourning. Imam takes the children away, and then the body is laid to rest. According to her wasiyah, says Ali, my acquaintance in this dunya was that to recite Quran and du'as. I want you to sit in my grave by my head and recite du'as a lot and a lot of Quran. Imam does that, abides by the wasiyah and the word that he has given to his wife. When he lays her to rest in the grave, there Amir al-Mu'mineen sends a salam to her and to Rasulullah. Says, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah anni wa an ibnatika nazilati fi jawarik. Salam be upon you, ya Rasulullah, from me and from this daughter of yours who has now embarked on this journey, and soon she will be meeting you. And says, Ya Rasulullah, that is, you gave me a trust, you gave me an amana, but that amana is not delivered to you as it was given to me. Zahra that you gave me was a Zahra, strong, and she was well, but the Zahra that I am returning to you is a broken Zahra, a hunched Zahra, a lady at the age of 18, she is hunched and broken, a lady who was slapped, who was beaten, and who was lashed by those mala'in and crushed between that burning door and the wall, and that nail also had hurt her chest. وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَيْكُمَا سَلَامَ مُوَدَّعٍ لَا قَالٍ وَلَا سَأْمٍ فَإِنْ أَنْصَرِفْ فَلَا عَنْ مَلَامَةٍ وَإِنْ أَقِمْ فَلَا عَنْ سُوءِ ظَنٍّ بِمَا وَعَدَ اللَّهُ. As-Sabirin says, Ya Rasulullah, I will leave now. I cannot stand here long. It is not because I do not want to talk to you. I love to speak to you, Ya Rasulullah. But the situation over here, it's different, it's difficult. And it is the wasiyah of your daughter that she be buried and no one finds out where the grave is. I have to leave this place so that no trace remains, no one finds out. And I have abided by the wasiyah of your daughter, Ya Rasulullah. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إلهي بحق الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها، يا الله 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 يا الله. اللهم أحينا حياة محمد وآل محمد وأمتنا ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم ارزقنا في الدنيا زيارة محمد وآل محمد وفي الآخرة شفاعة محمد وآل محمد. Allah, between us, Quran and Ahlul Bayt, never ever come across a moment of separation. Ya Allah, our children to be enlisted among the best of supporters, among the best of Muslims, among the best of those who mourn for Sayyid al-Shuhada. Ilahi, hasten in the return of our Imam, our master, and count us all among the best of his servants. Ya Allah, those who are ill and ailing, grant them shifa. Those who have passed away, Allah, forgive them this moment, this hour. Make them all the guests of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Hazrat Fatima alayhi salam. Ya Allah, hasten in the return of our Imam, our Master, our Hujjah, and send our sincere salams to the Imam. وسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد. جزاكم الله خير, Sheikh Shirazi. Now I request Brother Asfar Rizvi to pay homage to the Sayyid al-Shuhada, his ashab and his household. Brother Asfar is, along with Brother Aminullah, who recited the Holy Quran at the beginning of the Majlis, are one of the many students at Abrar Foundation. The blessed Tajweed al-Quran classes that they take, may Allah bless them, their other colleagues and students and their teachers. Brother Asfar Rizvi.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Salawat bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. रोकर सकीना कहती थी बाबा, कहाँ हो तुम, रोकर सकीना कहती थी बाबा, कहाँ हो तुम, घर बार लुट रहा है हमारा, कहाँ हो तुम, सर से रिदा लाई ने फूपी के उतार ली, सर से रिदा लाई ने फूपी के उतार ली, बाकी नहीं है कोई सहारा, कहाँ हो तुम। पुरसाने हाल कोई हमारा नहीं है क्या। पुरसाने हाल कोई हमारा नहीं है क्या। खैमे जला रहे हैं ये आदा, कहाँ हो तुम। अरे जकड़े हुए हैं बेड़ियों जंजीरों तौक में, जकड़े हुए हैं बेड़ियों जंजीरों तौक में। बीमार नातवा मेरे भैया, कहाँ हो तुम। मारे तमाचे कानों से गए भी ले लिए। मारे तमाचे कानों से गए भी ले लिए। जालिम सितम शियार ने बाबा, कहाँ हो तुम। अरे असग़र हमारा नन्हा सा भैया नहीं रहा। असग़र हमारा नन्हा सा भैया नहीं रहा। उस बिन रहूंगी कैसे खुदारा, कहाँ हो तुम। रो कर सकीना कहती थी बाबा, कहाँ हो तुम। बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
محمد وآل محمد. جزاكم الله خير. جي آغا. آسان.
ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. زيارة وارث. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن، بشرايع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. جزاكم الله. إن شاء الله कल मुलाकात होगी सबसे. في अमान अल्लाह.